Hello and welcome back to part 25 of Let's Play Modded Skyrim with our Khajiit character. Last time we had made our way finally to Iverstead to start the pilgrimage up the 7,000 steps to get to Hrothgar. We learnt a bit about the Greybeards, and that part of the quest is basically being built up by all these NPCs. Iverstead is slightly different from the original. It looks a lot prettier, and it's a town that you'd actually want to wander up to. The scenery, of course, is absolutely spectacular around here. I can't remember if there were more kids in this version. Seems to be. Of course they don't have their own unique dialogue. We'll check Vilma in anyway. I am sure that my character needs to sleep at some point, and we can stock up on supplies before we head up to Hrothgar. I suppose you would call this type of inn a longhouse. It looks like a ancient Viking longhouse, or what I think one would look like anyway.
You don't look like a pilgrim. Why bother visiting Iverstead? What do you want? Klimek brings food supplies up to them once every few weeks, when the weather permits it. Other than that, they seem like a quiet lot. Don't really know too much about them. What a boring conversation.
Well, you get some information from that guy who says there's an NPC that makes deliveries up to Hrothgar.
I'd keep away from the barrow on the east side of town.
Bandits
It's
ever
haunted.
have enough food? We go into the cave and all they have
A
is
haunted
bread.
barrow on
No one
the
will
east side of town.
No
That
one
could be
will
work for
fight.
me.
There ain't much more to tell. They're haunted.
And
You should stay away. Look, I've seen one of the spirits with my very own eyes. When it glared at me,
The worst
I
thing
swear
with
it
the
burned
Forsworn
right through
is
my
that
soul.
Each tribe have their own hagravens, and we all
Fortunately,
know how evil
they seem to be
hagravens are.
sticking to the barrow. I think they're guarding it. Certainly isn't helping my business any. Who'd want to rent a room anywhere near a haunted barrow?
I could
If you think
investigate
there's
it for
anything
you.
you can do, be my guest.
Yes, but who would build a town next to a barrow? Because these barrows have been around for
About a year or two
hundreds
ago,
of years since the
some
Dragon
fella
Wars,
named
surely.
Delius came through. Said he was some kind of a treasure hunter. I warned him not to go in there, just like I warned you. The very next night we heard screams
My
from the
mom
barrow.
says she's allergic
That
to
was
cats.
it.
I'm not sure what you will
We
say.
never saw him again.
So I could investigate this barrow, which would involve another Nordic ruin crawl.
Drink
We've
for the
already had
thirsty,
a
food
Nordic
for the
ruin
hungry.
crawl in Hilgrin's tomb, so I'll leave that out for now. Otherwise this walkthrough or this let's play is going to take a turn for the repetitive.
If you pass through again, stop by for a drink.
This is a nice inn, and not too crowded either.
That's before I add in a mod that adds hundreds of NPCs here. I can't use that pot for anything
Have
for
you
some
spoken
reason.
to
Maybe I
Bastard?
need to learn some recipes.
No, I'll
Yes, I don't need to rest at the moment, so there's not too much for me to do apart from to find this NPC who's making deliveries up to
Need something?
Hrothgar.
Hi there. Need something?
Hi there, need something. Not too much dialogue. There's a lumber mill here,
How are
which
you
means that I can
doing,
actually
Lydia?
get another quest from them. I think that's a Radiant quest.
Wanted to talk with you.
Poor you.
What is it now?
I'm dying for a
I know
rest.
what you said.
I swear I could lie down right now and just sleep forever.
Lydia and
I bet
Vilja
you
are
have
having
been
one of
working
their
hard.
repetitive
Being a
conversations.
housecarl, and sworn to carry someone else's burdens.
Not passing through on your way to High
Suppose I'm not
Hrothgar?
left much
About
This
to
is
make
the
a
guy,
delivery
this
up
is
there
Klimek
myself.
who makes the
I
deliveries.
could carry some stuff for you if you wish.
Mostly food supplies like dried fish and salted meats.
Perhaps
You know,
we could
things
come
that
to
keep
some
fresh for a
kind of
long
agreement?
time. The Greybeards tend not to get out much, if you catch my meaning.
How about this? I carry
Well,
some
it's kind of an understanding between us. I mean, it just wouldn't feel right to charge them for a bit of preserved food. Trouble is, my legs aren't what they used to be, and climbing the 7,000 steps takes its toll.
Do you know what? I could bake a cake for you one of these
Really?
days.
Well, that would be kind of you.
People don't have strawberries
Here,
in Skyrim.
take this bag of supplies. At the top of the
I
steps, you'll
love
see the offering
strawberries.
chest. Just leave the bag inside, and you're done.
If you say so.
I will do your
Well,
mission
there's
for
the
you.
occasional wolf pack or stray, but that's all I've ever had to deal with. Shouldn't be a problem for
Thank
the likes
you.
of you.
I'm ever so
Other than
grateful.
that, watch your footing. In these
Oh,
wintry conditions,
alright.
the stairs can be treacherous.
Now let's pretend we never had this discussion.
That's what he
You
says.
can
He
trust
says there's
him,
only
CGIs.
wolves up there.
Hello, my friend. What can I do for you on such a fine day? My father taught me an important lesson many years ago. He said, Gwilyn, you have the whole world before you. Go out and experience it. Be whatever you want to be.
Imagine
So,
living
I
in a
took his
village like
advice.
this.
And here I am. This life might not look like much to you, but I'm content. And isn't that all that matters? Have yourself a
Honestly,
great
I'm not
day.
certain. I've yet to be allowed into the monastery. Perhaps one day.
Okay, so the Greybeards seem to be a happy lot. For some reason they live in a monastery all the way up from civilization and get supplied by this guy called Klimek. They could have as many goats as they like to eat. I keep on referring back to Arena, but in Arena there was actually a city called Hrothgar.
Wouldn't
But
it
as
be
we
nice to
climb
just
these
walk
steps, maybe we'll actually learn something about the lore as we climb. Emblem 1. Before the birth of men, dragons ruled all Mundus. Their word was the voice, and they spoke only for the true needs, for the voice could blot out the sky and flood the land. Now that tells us what I briefly went over before about the start of the world, the start of the Nords anyway. In the beginning, in the Merethic period, this is the era where only elves walked in Tamriel and effectively men were outsiders. Dragons ruled Mundus. Mundus is the Elder Scrolls world for the world. That encompasses Tamriel, which is the main continent, places like Yakuda, continents like Atmora, other continents like Akavir, and so many more. So the whole thing, the whole Earth, essentially. Although, obviously, this isn't Earth, it's called Mundus, and dragons ruled it at the start of time. This is very similar to the Dark Souls history or lore, in that dragons were the first being that were around. But anyway, the first emblem says that, first of all, dragons ruled, and their voice was everything. Their voice could blot out the sky, and
Shall we
their
continue?
voice was all powerful, and anyone who had the voice was all powerful. There's no real mention of how the elves were involved in this, because the dragons seem to be very much a man versus dragon thing. The Merethic period, of course, refers to the period where the elves dominated and man had just started. Looks like there's an NPC here.
What do you want, cat? I like to spend time up here. Walk the steps. Meditate on the emblems. Doesn't hurt when I bag some game along the way. They're not the sort to take visitors. But I never go that high up the path anyway. Some folk who make the trip leave them food or other essentials, but not to make conversation.
Falconer is some sort of hunter. Here's another emblem we can read. Men were born and spread over the face of Mundus. The dragons presided over the crawling masses. Men were weak then and had no voice. So, at the start of the Merethic period, first of all you had dragons, and then you started to have men appearing. Now the lore in Elder Scrolls says there were two sources of man. First of all you had this aboriginal hunter-gatherer type man called the Neds, and you also had from Atmora a civilization that was coming down.
Afraid of water. No wonder they are so smelly. You will be so dead.
More leather for me. So man spread from Atmora, and man also started spreading through population, basically through breeding. It doesn't particularly say whether in Atmora there were dragons,
Have I got pregnant?
but for the sake of this game, let's say there weren't, because it doesn't really go into it. But at the start you had men who were weak, they had no voice, and you had dragons that were strong. So this is where the men started worshipping the dragons. Here is tablet number 3.
I really hate necromancers. They chop people
With
up.
some gold. The fledgling spirits were strong in old times, unafraid to war with dragons and their voices, but the dragons only shouted them down and broke their hearts. Now this skips a lot actually. It skips why the men of the time decided to rebel against the dragons. But it says that the men for some reason decided to be strong and bold and try to beat the dragons. Of course they failed because they had no voice and they were shouted down. But we mentioned before that the dragons weren't too interested about men, and they left most of the ruling down to the dragon priests, who were corrupt and enslaved man basically, and that was what the men were warring against. And so they stood up and tried to beat the dragon priests and tried to beat the dragons. But in the process, of course, the dragons kicked man's ass because men didn't have the facility to beat them. Now this is the next tablet.
Carlotta Valente is quite good looking.
Keep an eye out for wolves if you're headed up the path to Hrothgar. Walking the steps, meditating on the emblems. I make this trip every few years. Just a pilgrim. I'd prefer to leave it at that, if you don't mind. I was just outside Iverstead when it happened. It's an exciting moment. Nothing like this has happened in centuries.
Cool, a pilgrim.
Until next time.
Kine called on Parthenex, who pitied man. Together they taught men to use the voice, and the dragon war raged, dragon against tongue. So who is Kine? Kine, I think, is Kynereth, who is one of the 9 divines, or 10 divines if you like. 8 divines? 9 divines? One of the 9 divines. And they took pity on man and decided to send this mystery fellow called Parthenex, who taught men the voice. And from that, the men had the voice to be a bit more equally matched against the dragons. I see a troll. I see a troll. Oh, Lydia's gone and committed suicide. It's a frost troll, so a bit tougher, but he seems to be hanging around at the top. So we might have an opportunity to shoot him down before he does. He's already dropped down. We didn't hit him that time. I don't know why Villager's not helping. Let's burn that troll. We've got to double hand that troll, otherwise we've got no chance. Uh-oh. I think Lydia's down. Only going to be me. I'm not sure if I can survive this. Lydia's dead already. And so am I. 2 punches and I'm down. Anyway, we don't want to walk through everything again, and we are close to the end of the video, so what I will do is I'll say goodbye then, and hopefully I will see you next time for the next part of Let's Play Modded Skyrim, and hopefully we will beat that troll.